Hi, everyone. How are we doing today? I'm so excited that you're here. We'll just let me see if I need to let anybody else in and we'll go ahead and just get started. Awesome. Okay. Perfect. Well, I just want to say welcome, first of all. My name is Christy. I am the OA up here in Sacramento, so in Northern California. And I'm so excited that you've all joined us today for Going Green with Compass. We are recording this call, so if there are items we don't get to or items that you want to come back and watch later, you can absolutely do that via recording. We do ask that you throw your questions into the chat and we'll go ahead and check all of those as well too. We have just a quick slideshow to start us off, explaining kind of who we are and what we stand for, and then we'll introduce you to our three agents who are going to share a little bit about what they've been doing, what they've been seeing, and also answer any questions that you may have for them specifically. So my wonderful co-host, Ashley, she's going to be monitoring the chat for us. Outside of that, if there is any way that you could throw in the chat where you're from and maybe what your favorite thing about Going Green has been for you personally, we'd love to see that as well too. In the meantime, I'm going to start sharing my screen. And let's see here. Shared. Sorry there, we'll just get that shared. Oh my goodness.
Christy, is that actually the sky behind you? The blue sky with the white cloud?
It is.
Wow.
It's been, oddly enough, it's been a little crazy here in Sacramento where it has been super sunny and beautiful, and then it will be pouring rain for like 10-20 minutes, and then it'll be beautiful again. So I'm not really sure what's going on for you there. Oh my goodness. And oh my gosh, for some reason my slides don't want to share, so this is going really well already. I apologize. We may have to go without, and I may have to just send those out afterwards. I am so sorry. I'm not sure why I can't get it to do what it's supposed to do, but I will talk a little bit about who we are for Green at Compass, and we will start it off that way. So if you've been with Compass for longer than I have, which is only about 6 months, you may have remembered a similar group, which is sustainability at Compass. We are the same. In the beginning of this year, we thought about reviving what sustainability at Compass was doing pre-pandemic. They had a really similar message to what the group is that we were looking to start. And I reached out to their leadership and he said, yeah, let's do it. Let's get it started again. So we've kind of revived ourselves as Green at Compass. So if you remember sustainability at Compass, we are one and the same. Our mission hasn't really changed too much, to be honest. We kind of have gone off of what Compass's mission is overall, which is we want everyone to be able to find their place in the world. As Green ambassadors, it is really our job to say, okay, how do we protect this world that we want to be in and allow everyone to have their place in? So through our efforts here with Green at Compass, what we really want to do is say, okay, how can we go ahead and do that? Oh, perfect. Thank you so very much.
Yeah, is that working?
It is. For
Okay,
some
cool.
reason, my computer is just not having it with me
No
today.
worries. Takes a village.
It really does. I'm also under the weather a little bit, so it's yeah. So with that being said, Compass is really bound by what we can do in our neighborhoods, and we want to take that a step farther and say, what can we do as Green ambassadors to help Compass reduce its carbon footprint and lead as an example through being an environmentally responsible company? How do we do that? So our main goals, if you go to the next slide, is going to be three kind of main areas of focus. The first thing that we thought we could do for having our kind of impact within the office is how can we reduce waste within our offices? We all know that if you go into your standard Compass office, you might find things like disposable cups, disposable lids. Obviously, you're going to see a lot of options for printing various things, note cards and things like that, sticky notes. And our goal is to say, how can we take a look at what we're doing as a company and maybe reduce that? That being said, I know with COVID happening and we went to prepackaged snacks and we went to bottled water and we wanted things to where we wanted to keep everybody safe. But as we're coming out of that, we really have the opportunity to go back into kind of a more, how do we reduce, how do we reuse? So one of our goals is saying, how do we get rid of single-use items? How do we make us more aware for where our waste goes? A lot of cities really have a great system for separating recycling from compost, or if you're in an area like I am where they have you put everything in one and they separate it for us, there are things that each office can do. The second thing we want to go over and focus on is education events, kind of like what we're doing today. So each quarter, we want to feature an agent-facing panel. So our agents have the opportunity to focus perhaps on one kind of topic, or like today is a little more broad, where we're going to say a little bit about what we're about and a little more introductory. But also you have the opportunity as agents and staff to get involved on a regional level by planning green fundraisers or volunteer days. I have found that many people who are involved in Green at Compass are also pretty into Compass Cares. So maybe when you are creating a volunteer day for your office, or you're thinking, what charity do I want to nominate this quarter? Think about something that's environmentally responsible or something that's green facing. The last area where we're hoping to make a big difference, and this is kind of where our agents come in, is helping agents digitize their practice. So maybe making the move from one sheets at open houses and formal pitch books for our sellers to QR codes and the really fancy flip books. Our platform of tools is so robust in helping you go digital if you would like to. So those are kind of our three areas that we as a group want to focus on. We do have 4 main goals. If you go to the next one for me. And that is our kind of establishment of our group on a broader level. It kind of birthed itself in Northern California, and now we're hoping to establish staff and agent leaders in each region. So if you have reached out to us and you've said, I want to get involved and I'm not sure how, one of the things that we say is, hey, let's talk to the staff in your area, see if someone wants to represent you and they can help plan green events. Or as an agent, if you have a particular thing that perhaps you're involved in on the side that you think would be great to bring to the group at large, those are great ways to kind of get involved, as become your area leader. We also have the opportunity for you to participate in one of our speaking panels. So we have 3 amazing agents today that have volunteered their time and their slideshow and have really felt passionate about what we're doing. And if there are topics in the future that you think you feel strongly about or you want to suggest to us, that's another great way to get involved. A third goal for us is to solicit our Compass leadership. We can't make policy change unless we're a large enough group with a loud enough voice to say, hey, look at what we want to do, look how it can help Compass overall, and let's set some expectations for what we want to see our company represent out to the world. That being said, it kind of goes hand in hand with our 4th goal, is how do we establish green standards of practice? Now in the United States, companies are going to have to start, reporting on what their green standards are, and we want to make sure that we're on the front runner of that. So those are our kind of goals for the roughly 6 months we have for the rest of this year and beyond. So we really would like you to get involved, which leads me to my next slide. How can you help? Again, becoming a regional green leader and helping us plan local events, being really active on our Compass, Green at Compass workplace page. Share your fundraisers, share your causes, share articles, share local events outside of Compass. Many of you have so many interests that aren't necessarily related to your work, but we probably share those interests as well too. And a third way that you could get involved is to join, our newsletter team. We're always looking for people that might want to write an article or share some tips and tricks. There is going to be a monthly meatless recipe. So if you have one that you have perfected or one that maybe you haven't, but someone else might, you can also submit that to us and you'll see it come out. It's going to be more of a flip book style going forward. It's like a mini magazine that you can look through, and we'd absolutely love for you to participate in that as well too. So now we kind of have the opportunity to talk about our 3 agents who are here with us today. It's really agents that have made some changes within their practice. Our first one is Mike Yohay. He's from Berkeley. This is him here. And then our second is Amanda Brunato from Oakland, and Robbie Varela from here in Sacramento. So I'll let each agent introduce him and herself, and we'll kind of go from there. So Mike, I'll have you go ahead and start. Oh, let me get you.
Give me 1 second here. Okay, cool. Hi. Thank you all for joining. For me, I had an aha moment, which I like to start with in terms of my interest in environmentalism and sustainability. I lived in Costa Rica 20 years ago. I was managing one of the top 10 eco lodges in the world. It's called Selva Bonanito. And, there we demonstrated how to harvest the value of the primary rainforest, not by cutting down these majestic old growth trees or poaching animals, but by bringing tourists into the rainforest for hiking and zipline tours, horseback riding, etc. It was a profound lesson for me on how to use business as a vehicle for conservation. When I returned to the US, I enrolled in the Green MBA program through Dominican University. This was a business school that focused on sustainable entrepreneurship, essentially putting Mother Nature on the balance sheet and developing ways to use business as a catalyst for environmental and social good. As an agent, I work hard to promote a personal brand that incorporates environmental consciousness through email newsletters and social media. I'm at Organic Realtor on Instagram and Facebook if you guys want to connect. And I really just try to walk the talk and show how individual actions contribute to a greater movement. Things like driving an EV, installing solar panels, eating local and organic, etc. Plus, I'm a member, along with Amanda, of our MLS's Climate Action Committee, which sponsors guest speakers. We have a green homes tour and other events. Basically, I want to lead by example and promote a lifestyle that makes environmental consciousness part of my everyday, not a cultish commitment that may seem out of reach or intimidating to some, but rather a collection of thoughtful actions that show a sincere commitment to lowering my environmental footprint. And I also love introducing clients to the natural environment. Often these days, people just use maps on their phone and show up at an open house, not knowing what's around them. And I like to tell them about local hiking, parks, etc. Because I believe that if you build a stronger connection with the natural environment, you'll be more protective of it. This was definitely true for me, and it's something I'm working hard to pass on to my daughter.
No, I love that. I think, if we all do our part, it doesn't always have to be perfect. What is the saying that, you don't need one person doing it perfectly. You need a million people doing it as best as they can. So I think that's a really great way. Amanda, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit as well?
Hi, thanks, Mike, and thanks everybody for being here. Let's see, I am based in Oakland and service kind of the inner East Bay. I've been a realtor for 5 years. I co-own a business with my husband, who's a general contractor. And our company is Ultimate Home Performance, which I'm not involved in the day-to-day anymore, but it really is. I bring it up because it's so much of how I've gained knowledge about homes and their carbon footprint and ways that we can make change through homes and through energy efficiency. And so we had launched that company about 15 years ago. And really coming in and doing like energy assessments of homes and energy upgrades, and most recently helping people go all electric. And I'd like to take a moment to just kind of touch on what that means. Christy, is that a part of your plan later? Are you going to explain electrification or anything? I don't want to overstep on the, oops, I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
I said we were going to get into a little bit of that later, but it's not specific to that. Go ahead.
Okay. Great. Because I might mention it at any random time, I just wanted to introduce it. I know it's really a buzzword now, and to help people understand what that means in case you don't already. And that is essentially that there's 4 appliances in our house, in our homes, that can run on gas or electric. And that's our furnace, our water heater, our stove oven appliance, and our clothes dryer. And so, you know, choosing to use appliances that don't run on fossil fuels, there's a lot of converting them to electric appliances or heat pump appliances, which run on electricity, is a big area of passion for me, and one that I'm happy to take private calls about and to talk about today. And so certainly in my business, I, you know, try to make the little choices from day to day, whether, you know, it's in my personal life or, you know, not choosing, just the moment to moment choices in supporting the environment. I think I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you.
I love that. Definitely. We recently went all electric in our home, and I honestly don't miss it. I probably not a good enough cook to know the difference, but I was. And then I'd like to also introduce Robbie Varela as our last agent. She's our mountain mama up in the foothills.
Hi. Yep, I'm Robbie. I'm pretty new to Compass, only joined this past February. So I'm really excited to be here. I live in the foothill community of El Dorado County. So that's, I guess, best described as halfway between Sacramento and Lake Tahoe. Originally from Orange County, we used to come up here every year. Years before real estate, I was in marketing and advertising, and we'd come up here and do our team building events and go whitewater rafting. And every year I never wanted to leave. So in 2008, we came up here. We bought some land in Shingle Springs, the house, bought chickens and goats like way too soon before we knew, you know, what we were doing. But yeah, I primarily work like El Dorado Hills suburbs, and then my specialty is these rural homes on acreage, all the way up to, you know, past Placerville into Camino. I dip down into Amador County in the wine country. And this area is a huge feeder market for Bay Area people. So my favorite thing to do is kind of to use my experiences from being a city person, coming up here, learning the nuances of living on acreage and what that means, having a well, having a septic, having this huge propane tank that I didn't even realize wasn't to barbecue until we had no heat. Amanda could speak to that. But that's my favorite thing, is to just kind of take what I've learned, share that with buyers, lots of Bay Area buyers, love them. And then focus really on how to retrofit your home to be more energy efficient. And it's especially important out here, and I'll get into it later, but the fires have really created a situation where people are actually forced to consider green alternatives, which is kind of a good thing that's come out of tragedy. But that's it. I'm super excited to be here, and happy that I finally, you know, in 22 years of real estate, it's like I finally feel like I found a home in this brokerage that's principles and values like align with my own. So thank you for having me.
We love to hear that. Well, Robbie, I'll actually throw our first question to you. So what are the trends that you've seen with the green practices that have kind of come out in the last couple of years for both buying and selling?
Yeah. For buyers in particular, in fact, I have a health, well, I think everyone has a lot of buyers right now, is I'm seeing buyers only wanting me to show them houses with solar. They don't want to see, and not even just solar, it has to be owned solar. So they're savvy enough now to know the benefits of owned versus leased. Even just a couple of years ago, people would go, oh, solar, cool. You know, they really didn't have that value yet, and they do now. Seeing them demanding copies of the average energy bills so that they can prove that that solar is actually offsetting what they're saying it is. And then more recently with sellers, which is really exciting, is they're considering those whole house batteries, which haven't been on. We live in a pretty conservative area, so change happens at a slower rate than, in Amanda and Mike's area. But it's exciting. People are putting in those whole house batteries because we do have an energy crisis here in El Dorado County. We have rolling blackouts. We have power. PG&E just turns off the power when the winds kick up. And then, of course, the fire. So people that maybe weren't on board before with green energy, sustainability, it's a necessity. So we're really seeing a lot of those power walls going in. Yeah, in terms of me representing a seller, on the other hand, I'm always asking for, if they do have solar, let's go ahead and be proactive and list those energy bills as an attachment in the MLS. Yep, people downsizing, empty nesters. I'm actually targeting the empty nesters now because of our high energy costs. They're downsizing. And then something in particular I'm excited about is people are understanding the difference and that it's out there, zero versus zero landscaping, and they're getting rid of their lawns. Yeah, is a definite necessity. Yeah, I think that's about it.
Oh, definitely. Mike, would you say that that's different in the Bay Area, or are you seeing kind of the same trends?
A lot starts here. I'm in Berkeley, and for instance, we just banned natural gas in new construction, right? So, and now 50 other cities in California have followed suit. On a net basis, residential sector accounts for about 20% of total US energy consumption, right? And so what Amanda was saying before, the main uses are about 90% of a home's use, comes from water heating and space heating. And so swapping systems out for heat pumps offers a huge efficiency boost and reductions in greenhouse gas emissions. So, here in the Bay Area, gas appliances will only be available for sale for the next 5 years. And then they'll be banned in 2027. And then in 2030, they'll be banned statewide. So, in terms of an industry, that's a big change. And we need to be educating real estate agents, giving them the tools to promote sustainability in our listings, because that's the change that's coming for sure.
Oh, definitely. So when you see these kind of changes and you see what's happening, what advice would you offer to agents that aren't necessarily in a market that have, either legislation in place to ban certain things or incentives in place? So some of our friends maybe, across the country who don't have the same thing going on.
I think one idea I see playing out really effectively is mandating sustainability upgrades through real estate transactions. So for instance, here we have a point of sale ordinance called BESO, right, which stands for Building Emissions Savings Ordinance. And I'm curious to know if other folks have these kinds of point of sale ordinances in other parts of the country. But here, this requires homeowners to complete and publicly report comprehensive energy assessments to uncover energy and greenhouse gas emissions savings opportunities. Okay, so these assessments are conducted by registered energy assessors who provide tailored recommendations on how to save energy, eliminate fossil fuels, and link building owners to incentive programs for energy efficiency and electrification upgrades. So there's a lot going on. Basically, right now, these energy efficiency improvements and electrification recommendations are not required, but they're encouraged. So essentially using a transfer of ownership to trigger mandatory upgrades so that it benefits the homeowner and the environment. I think that is a really elegant solution here.
Oh, definitely. And Amanda, you had talked about electrification a little earlier in the call. What would you say to a seller that maybe wants to put in some upgrades with Compass Concierge or something like that? And, they're not quite sure how to consider balancing being green and being cost effective.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it would really depend on what item is being discussed. If it was a matter of replacing a water heater, I don't know many sellers who would go the extra mile to put in a heat pump water heater instead of a gas water heater at time of sale. So really, rather than trying to get someone to do something that they, might not do, I would discuss it. I think in any of the circumstances where we're talking about something like that, choices need to be made, right? So you present the options, you present the pros and cons of each, you do a cost analysis, and ultimately the owners are going to make their own decisions. However, if you've done everything you can do to lay out, reasons why, but if it was simply a matter of replacing an appliance and they didn't want to do that, I would really encourage them to leave it to the buyer to do, because, when people come in and are going to make the home their own, right? They're going to make choices that are different than a seller who's really just kind of focused on bottom line at that point. So someone who owns a home likely will make a more healthy choice, right? What's going to make for better indoor air quality? They're going to be living in the home. What's the safer appliance? So in that case, if it was simply an appliance, I would encourage them to wait if they didn't want to do it. And if it was something like material choices or remodel, we'd have to look at the cost analysis, but in large part, I would be having a thorough conversation about, why they would want to make, asking questions to kind of probe, to help them understand the implications of their choices.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Robbie, you were saying everyone's representing buyers right now, and that definitely seems to be the case. But do you find that in a situation like this, are most of your buyers asking for these type of upgrades to already be done, or they're happy to come in and complete those as they wish?
So I'm noticing buyers prefer to have it done. I guess, when I'm talking to my sellers and I'm convincing them to make these upgrades, which hopefully when this market shifts soon, they'll see the need to do so, right? The leverage will be. But in the meantime, I just try to remind them that millennials are still making up the largest buyer pool, and what they want in homes may not necessarily align with their values, but they need to prepare their home to market to those values, which are, smart technology and resource efficiency. So from what I'm seeing is they would probably prefer to have those items already in place. I've seen it be a deterrent when it's left to them. Now I'm in a different market than Amanda, but I'm very interested in kind of delving into the Compass Concierge and using that in combination to upgrade these homes to be more energy efficient, than raising the value, being able to market as a sustainable home, and then capturing those millennials' attention.
Definitely. Mark, are you seeing something different in your business, or kind of along the same lines?
I mean, I feel like we're in a bit of a bubble where we are, right? In terms of values, in terms of where people are willing to put their money. So I actually went back to the National Association of Realtors has a research group, and in March, they surveyed their members pertaining to sustainability issues facing the industry. And so there's a report. I encourage you guys to check it out. I'll put it in the chat. It's NAR-realtor/sustainability, but I'll put it in the chat. So some of the findings that I thought were interesting, and this is on a national level, was, let me just pull it up here. 35% of respondents reported their MLS has green data fields, and respondents typically use the green data fields to promote green features and energy information. So a little bit more than a third of all the MLSs out there, okay? 63% said energy efficiency promotion in listings was very or somewhat valuable. So that's more than half, right? And then 51% of respondents found clients were at least somewhat interested in sustainability, right? So obviously the demand is there for more information about a home's green features. We just need to make sure every MLS is doing its part.
Absolutely. It's always about kind of the information that's out there. Speaking of NAR and kind of their green program and their green designation, both you and Amanda, I believe, went through that program, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Can you, I know, Amanda, you definitely have some opinions on this. Can you talk a little bit about the education that you went through for the green designation for NAR and kind of how that's helped along these lines?
Yeah, I can. It's been a number of years. Mike has probably taken it more recently, but it really is a kind of a repeat of the business of home performance. So it's about residential energy efficiency and how we look at a building. And so, kind of we are interfacing with people every day, right, about their homes. We're a resource for them. We help them buy and sell their homes. They come to us for years afterwards with questions. And so for us to have an understanding of kind of how buildings operate and share that information will really help elevate the mission, I think, to clean up the environment and to make homes more comfortable, better indoor air quality. And so home performance is really kind of the catchphrase of this area of construction. And so if you think about a home, right, and somebody's sitting in their home and like maybe one room is hot while another room is cold, and yet the ducts reach every room, right? So seemingly your house should have a consistent temperature from room to room and even from floor to ceiling within a room. However, so if that's not happening, and let's say someone has a hot room, right? And then they call the window supplier and they're like, okay, my single pane windows are letting, too much solar gain in, right? I need dual pane windows that have low E coating or whatever. So they, and then that doesn't work really. So then they call the insulation company, and the insulation company comes in and they do their part. And there's just kind of all these disjointed facets to a home, when really a home is kind of like our body, right? It's interconnected and it's a living, breathing organism. And so the industry of home performance looks at the house as a whole system, with the idea being that you want to tighten up the building envelope and control any air movement that's happening in and out, right? So you tighten it up, you insulate it, because if you insulate it but don't necessarily like fill the smaller cracks and gaps before you insulate it, it's the difference between like wearing a windbreaker, right? If you think about the air movement through a windbreaker versus if you have like a loose knit sweater on and you go outside and how the air moves through that, the insulation is more like a loose knit sweater. So you're tightening up, you're insulating, and at some point you're going to install mechanical ventilation so you can control, that you want air circulating, certainly. And then you're going to put in an efficient and high performing heating and cooling system, depending what market you're in. We don't have cooling here so much, but most of you probably do. And really looking at indoor air quality along with that. And so the NAR program kind of breaks that down and how they understand the science of that process, including things like if you're in a house and it's getting hot, right? And hot air wants to rise up. So then as it's like wanting to push out of the attic, if you don't necessarily have a tight envelope, that it's pulling air up from underneath of the house, which can bring contaminants into it. So it's actually a very complex set of circumstances that they talk through to help you understand. And then this information you can share with clients, with ultimately the goal being of making our homes have a lesser carbon footprint and just be healthier to live in, with things like a reduction in asthma even.
Oh, that's amazing. So it sounds like, at least through the education alone, just regardless of the designation, you're going to learn quite a bit of stuff. Oh, I love that. Okay.
Mike, do you have anything to add to that?
Not much. Really, it's just a way to help differentiate yourself. If it's something that you're sincere about, if it's something you're excited about, then your clients will be too, and to Amanda's point, if you have a seller that's trying to decide what to do with that old water heater, if you can show them the data, you can show them a compelling reason to do it, you're making a tangible impact in terms of the health and sustainability of that next owner and the environment, right? So I think just having the knowledge, having the education will just empower you and make you, stand out in a sense, giving you, it's a comprehensive understanding of how homes with green features should be marketed differently than traditional homes. So yeah, I recommend it for sure.
Wonderful. I do want to shift gears a little bit. Going green is a phenomenal goal, and we all know that it can be pricey. So I do want to touch on kind of what you've seen, and I'm going to throw this question out to Robbie because you're in a little bit of a different area. From a socioeconomic standpoint, have you seen this be something that maybe people have a harder time taking on an environmentalism cause or a mindset with their home? Because it can be a pretty good chunk of change, and kind of what have you seen?
Right. Yeah, specifically, so it's interesting because I work El Dorado Hills, and that's a completely different market and a really short distance between there and when you start to get into the more rural communities, which are also, you know, your lower income. I think a lot of the momentum in those smaller, more rural communities has been thwarted because of the fire crisis. We have tiers now, and I don't know if any, well, I'm not sure if that's across the board, but in Northern California, in this region, we have fire tiers. And they redraw these fire lines all the time. And so if you're in a tier 2 or above, your fire insurance is going up significantly in these areas that were affected by the fire. So we're talking like Pollock Pines, and you know the recent fires were devastating. So these people that are barely able to afford their mortgage, maybe had some money to invest in, you know, renewable energies to lower their energy costs, now are just faced with fire insurance premiums that have easily tripled or quadrupled. So for these people in these areas, you know, $400, $500 more a month is game over. You know, they're barely able to hang on to the house. So any thought of, you know, greenifying your home is it's just not reality for these folks right now. And unfortunately, we're seeing, you know, a housing crisis now in this, like a little bubble, like a foreclosure bubble, specifically because of the fire issue. So yeah, so in those rural communities, it has halted. Now we do have other communities that are gated, equestrian, and those folks have been, it sounds terrible, positively affected by this fire season, because a lot of these people are on wells. And when the power goes out and you don't have a backup energy source, you don't have electricity or water. So I live in a really diverse area, and it's interesting how the climate is affecting various, you know, socioeconomic situations.
Amanda, you're in a pretty diverse area as well, too, in Oakland. I mean, obviously it's not going to be the same as for a rural neighborhood, but what are you kind of seeing for the impact there?
You know, there's so much wealth where we live, and really the priority for culturally, you know, there's a certain level of, I think, status for people to also support sustainability. There's a lot of, you know, electric vehicles, a lot of Teslas, and we see a lot of people kind of making choices to go to support environmental sustainability, to go solar, to convert, you know, their cars, their appliances to electric. So it's there's enough money here that people are able to make that work by and large. Of course, not everybody, but we're also our hill areas do rolling blackouts as well, and so a lot of people have had to go with these kind of backup batteries, so that if their power is out for days, they're able to, you know, to live in their homes.
Definitely. I know, you know, parts of kind of the Oakland, Berkeley area, at least when I lived there, not everything was quite so affluent. I know there are programs and things that are in place. Mike, I feel like you and I had a conversation about this, where it kind of talked about what you were seeing specifically kind of in the Oakland area for how programs that they have citywide or regional wide can kind of help with stuff like this. What are you seeing?
Yeah, I mean, locally we have an organization called BayRen, which implements energy savings programs on a regional level in collaboration with, I think it's like 9 Bay Area counties, and they offer rebates and financing on things like heat pump, water heaters, induction cooktops, insulation, water efficiency upgrades, etc. Also PG&E. They have a green saver program that enables income qualified residential customers in select areas to save 20% on their electricity bill by subscribing to 100% solar energy, which is pretty awesome. So in general, I recommend just checking with your local utility company to see what programs exist. I mean, I think so many of these things are just underutilized, right? And once you start digging into them, you realize that there is a lot of financial incentive out there. You just have to kind of do the homework to figure it out. You know, it's like the coupon thing. Like, people don't take time to do coupons, but they're out there and they actually are legit. You just have to make the effort. So that's a good endorsement for just, you know, doing it.
Definitely. And for those of you that are joining us outside of the Northern California, like Mike said, I would highly recommend that you take a look at what some of the programs are in your area, especially if you do have a, you know, pretty economically diverse area. There's going to be people that may benefit from income-driven programs versus just kind of like a rebate style program. And so there are things that are out there. And if you know of one and you want to throw it in the chat, that would be awesome. It could just help others, because we really would like to kind of get a movement going across our country with all of our Compass offices.
I think, you know, just one thing I wanted to add is just that the economics are shifting, right? We're in this time period now where energy costs are soaring. I mean, I just heard today that our energy costs in the past year have gone up 50%, right? We bought solar panels, I think 4 or 5 years ago. And what I liked about that, not just the environmental impact, but you're turning it into a fixed cost, right? We know that the utility companies go up every year, especially here in California. And then you sprinkle on top of that what's happening in Ukraine and Russia, it's astronomical, right? And so now there's this financial incentive, which I think is at least as important as the environmental one when you're trying to make the argument to people like, hey, this is a good time to kind of consider this stuff. Maybe you don't have an enlightened self-interest, you know, to benefit the environment, and that's fine as long as, you know, you're looking at it apples to apples. When you're comparing these things, really, you know, vet it out. I mean, are you actually saving money by keeping these gas guzzling devices and things like that? Or maybe it is a bit of a, you know, upfront, you know, cost, but long term, there's actually, you know, economic benefits now that didn't exist before. So I just, again, like, know the math, show it to people, let them decide. And that's why I think you're seeing so much adoption that's happening across the country.
When in doubt, just make a really fancy spreadsheet.
Totally.
I know that's what I like to do. Well, we're getting pretty close to our time. We have about 15 minutes left. One of the things that I want to put out to both of you, you know, all three of you agents, and as well as everybody in the chat, are what are some things you'd like to specifically see Green at Compass try to establish, and not necessarily even Green at Compass, just Compass at large? What can we do to kind of bring this to the forefront? What do you want to see from us as a company? And, you know, Mike, I'll let you start because you're already up.
You know, I think more trainings and guest speakers would be awesome. Green home tours, which is something that our climate action committee does locally. We don't do it that often, but I think it's a great idea because then you can really see what other people have done with their homes. And that just provides inspiration and ideas. And sometimes it just makes it more tangible, right? Because sometimes you're seeing this stuff online or you're seeing the pictures and the data, but just go visiting a home, walking around, talking to the owner to see kind of what they're excited about and the decisions they made can be hugely impactful. And then I think you touched on it before, but, you know, Compass Concierge is this amazing program. And so if there was a carve out for sustainability upgrades, I think we need, you know, again, we need incentives. We can't just rely on people doing the work on their own volition. There needs to be an economic reason to do so.
Awesome. I know Ellie in the chat says a list of energy efficient building materials would be super helpful. So I think that kind of goes along the lines with you're going to make, you know, remodels happen or retrofits happen, that having those materials available to you. So definitely we'll take note of that and kind of see what we can find out for everyone. Amanda, do you have anything you want to add?
What I'd like to see Compass do. I think your slides touched on a fair amount of it in the beginning. I think that having, like, one thing the Climate Action Committee does is we have like a climate action corner that goes out to our local Oakland Berkeley Association of Realtors members, but even, you know, we could offer something like that in our weekly office meeting. Just have a slide, whether it's like a tip, something, a question to get people thinking, and an event that's going to happen for cleanup or something like that. Let's see, I wrote a couple of things down. Oh, I think, like you're saying, having in the office, that you have this green team, I think that, just really having that be active, right? And maybe engage some agents, not just the OAs, but some agents who might have ideas about things as well. And really just promoting I think you guys bringing this group to light is really exciting because it might become more of a conversation. It's like Mike said on our meeting call the other day, like there's a lot of great, passionate people who could really thrive and grow together, right? By having these groups. And the same with our local offices. It's like, it could be a way to elevate the awareness about opportunities, ways to improve our businesses.
Definitely. And Robbie, you're pretty new to Compass and you've been a realtor for a long time. What is your kind of mindset on how you feel coming in and what you'd like to see?
Yeah, well, specifically with Compass Green, I would love to have a section in our marketing center that is just focused on green technologies, whether it be, social media posts, digital marketing, but something that we can just start slowly educating people about. Somebody put in the chat about the building materials, emerging technologies, drought resistant landscaping, the difference between zero and zero landscaping, I think would be really helpful. What else? And then maybe in the gift section, I just started utilizing, because it's just super convenient, our gifts for clients. If maybe there's a category where there's green gifts. So far I've been sending out a lot of succulents, which is awesome. But maybe if we can do something, whether it just be like reusable, shopping bags with Compass logo, hydro flasks. Yeah, I think that was it. It would be kind of cool. I'm going through the Compass core, which I love, is if we kind of had like maybe a mini series that would ultimately end in some kind of Compass Green designation that would help us brand ourselves to our clients.
Oh, I do. I love that idea on doing like a mini series for green. Oh, that's really awesome. Let's see. Let's take a look at our chat. Oh, lots of people say the marketing center thing. They're really, really into that. I think that'd be a good idea. We are going to put out a monthly newsletter as Green at Compass. So if we can, one of the things we can focus on is maybe including a social asset or something like that that people can use while our design team kind of ramps up to see what we can do. There's always ways that there are actually a lot of really talented designers that have kind of a focus on green in their personal lives that have reached out to us and said, we're willing to help design things. So I think the interest is there. I also think if anybody has an idea for maybe a fundraiser in your area, those are things we're really interested in. I think at some point we'd like to do shirts or something like you've seen through Compass Cares, but for Green at Compass, where maybe we can do some sort of quarterly charity that it benefits. So there are a lot of ideas in the works. Without this being a shameless plug, to email us, because we love to hear from you. Whatever there is that you feel like Green at Compass might have an interest in, there's not really an idea that's too big or too small. It goes to a team that really is passionate about this. Myself, my co-host today, Ashley included, Jess, Nathaniel, Emily, we're all here as staff members who really want to help embrace not only our relationship with the green environment, but our relationship with you guys as agents and how we can all work together to make this a successful program within Compass. It does look like there's a couple of really awesome classes and certifications that have been placed in the chats for different areas. If there are things that are coming up that you think that Compass at large would benefit for, I highly recommend that you post it onto the page for Green at Compass. Or you can always shoot us an email about it. We can feature it in a newsletter if it's coming up. So we will have kind of our goal is to have a section where we can shout out different things that might help people, not necessarily regionally specific, but even nationally. So there are some great things out there. Is there anything that any of the three of you would like to touch on really quick, or anything that I missed?
It sounds like it's a start of a good conversation. Hopefully we can keep it going.
I really, really hope so as well too. I personally want to thank the three of you for taking time out of your day. I know as real estate agents, you're all super busy all the time. And we really, really enjoyed and are thankful that you are here with us, as well as everybody else who is on this call today. I know if you're a staff member, there's 1,000 trainings that you have to be on, and we're happy that you made this one of the things that you chose to be at. Kristen Kane, I see you. So I'm really, really pleased. And if there's anything that our group can do or help facilitate some of the great things that you mentioned, we will start working on, and hopefully I'll have some updates for you. But please, 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 we're green@compass.com. You can shoot an email right to our leadership team. There is a workplace that you can post on. There is any number of things. You can email me directly if you feel like that's what you want to do. I'm here for that too. So I just am really, really pleased that this is something that's coming about. And I want to thank you again all for taking your time today. This is recorded, so I will send it out along with the slides.
Thanks, everybody.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Thanks.